Look around the room you're in right now. Like, take
Mm-hmm.
in the light, the shapes, the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to imagine for a second that your brain, that 3-pound mass of tissue inside your skull, isn't actually the brilliant artist painting the canvas of your reality.
Right, which is how we usually think about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But imagine it's just a piece of hardware, like
Yeah.
a biological antenna, and its only job is to receive the raw data of the outside world and translate it.
Yeah.
Because if you completely cut off that signal, like no sights, no sounds, no sensations,
Mm-hmm.
your brain doesn't just get bored. It effectively ceases to function. The canvas just goes completely blank.
It's a really radical starting point, but that's actually the core premise we are diving into today.
Yeah, it really is.
We're examining a highly specific, deeply philosophical text, and it's titled Brains, Minds, Consciousnesses, and the Great Universe, and it's by an author named Xu Feng. So the mission today is to map out this text's incredibly intricate focus on the interactive relationship between the brain, our consciousness, and what the author calls the Great Universe.
And just to give you, the listener, a clear map of the territory we're about to cross today. I mean, this text ventures into some really intense metaphysical claims.
Oh, absolutely.
It proposes literal mechanisms for reincarnation, the existence of celestial beings, and it even points to a specific real-world community called Lifechanyuan.
Yeah, that part is very specific.
So to be crystal clear right up front, we aren't here to convert you or to validate these claims as universal truths.
No, definitely not.
Think of us as your cartographers. We're just mapping out the author's exact intellectual framework, tracing the logic of how these ideas connect, so you can weigh the concepts for yourself.
That's the perfect way to approach it, honestly, because to understand Schwething's framework, you have to temporarily suspend your standard biological assumptions. We need to look at the very foundation of his argument, which completely literally severs the brain from the mind.
Yeah, which is...
They're treated as two entirely different entities with totally different rules of existence.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I found that separation really jarring at first.
I mean, it is.
We're so used to using brain and mind interchangeably. But the text treats the brain as strictly a physical channel.
Exactly.
It is entirely bound to the material world, and its survival mechanism is completely dependent on the great universe, which, by the way, is the author's catch-all term for every single sensory input available to us.
Yes, the sights, the smells, everything.
Right. And without the great universe feeding data into the brain dies. It literally possesses no intrinsic life of its own.
What's fascinating here is that it is entirely reactionary. The brain's function is just to observe and experience the universe. And through the friction of that processing, it generates the mind. So the mind is basically the byproduct. And the text uses a classic idiom to illustrate the mechanics of this, which is read 1,000 books and travel 1,000 miles.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, the underlying logic is that the closer a brain looks at physical phenomena and the deeper it actually feels those sensory inputs, the more physically developed the brain becomes.
Oh, I see.
And that physical development directly results in a more powerful consciousness.
Okay, let me try to visualize this, because my instinct is to use the old smartphone metaphor.
Sure, hardware and software.
Right, where the brain is the hardware and the mind is the software. But that feels a bit too, I don't know, rigid for what the text is actually doing.
Yeah, it misses some of the nuance.
It actually feels more like a glass prism. Like if the great universe is a beam of raw white light, the brain is the physical glass prism it hits.
Oh, I like that.
And the mind, our consciousness, is the spectrum of colors that shines out the other side.
That's a great analogy.
Because if you take away the light, the prism is just a cold piece of glass sitting in the dark. It doesn't generate its own colors. Does that mean the brain essentially has no original thoughts without that external data?
Yes, the prism analogy captures the causality perfectly. The brain is literally a mechanism of refraction.
Okay.
But we have to take that analogy a step further to fully grasp the author's point. The text argues that the quality of the mind is entirely dependent on the quality of the light hitting the prism.
Oh, wow. So it's not just a one-time thing.
Exactly. The interactive loop between the brain and the universe isn't just a one-time activation. It's a continuous, second-by-second forging process.
Constant input.
Yes, your mind doesn't just passively reside inside you.
Yeah.
It is actively being manufactured by the environment you are currently in.
Which creates a staggering domino effect when you think about it.
Oh, totally.
Because if my mind is nothing more than the refracted light of my environment, then my surroundings aren't just a passive backdrop to my life.
No.
They're literally the architect of my soul.
Yeah, you're hitting on the concept of environmental determinism here, which is a major, major pillar of this text.
Right.
The author states plainly that the environment creates the mind. There is no ambiguous gray area at all.
It's absolute.
It is. And to prove this, the text points to historical phenomena like wolf children and deer children.
Oh, right. The cases where human infants were lost in the wild and raised by animals. I've read about those.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't just act a little wild. They fundamentally fail to develop human consciousness.
Because, according to this framework, the biological receptors of the infant's brain were only receiving the great universe data of a wolf pack.
Right. The inputs were wolf inputs.
Yes. The brain processed wolf behaviors, wolf sounds, wolf survival tactics. Therefore, the resulting consciousness construct is entirely wolf.
That is so wild.
I know, the physical brain is human, but the mind generated is simply not.
That makes total sense within this logic, though. And the text drives this home with some highly poetic maxims, too.
It really does.
Like it says, the bel esprits reside on green mountains with sparkling water, while rogues live on barren hills with turbulent rivers.
Such vivid imagery.
It is. And the implication is that a chaotic, ugly environment literally processes into a chaotic, ugly mind.
Yes.
But what really threw me was how the author categorizes the environment itself.
Yeah.
Like, the great universe isn't just the physical room we are sitting in.
Right, it goes way beyond that.
The author splits it into two distinct layers, right?
Yeah.
Reality and super reality.
Yes, the material and the non-material. And this is where the framework gets incredibly relevant to modern life.
Wait, so according to this framework, reality is the material stuff, what I can touch, taste, and smell. Like the trees outside, the chair I'm sitting on.
Exactly, the physical world.
But super reality includes the non-material world. The text specifically lists the universe written in books, the things we dream in our subconscious, our own imagination, and crucially, the things we see on computer and TV screens.
Yes, and consider the implications of that classification for a second.
It's huge.
If you are listening to this right now, the text argues that the audio information streaming into your ears is acting as your super reality.
Yeah.
The author is giving information consumption the exact same biological and spiritual weight as your physical habitat.
So if you're scrolling through social media, that glowing screen isn't just a temporary distraction.
Not at all.
It is the great universe actively pouring data into your brain.
Yes.
I mean, if my super reality is filled with outrage-inducing algorithms, violent news, and constant anxiety, my brain is absorbing that as its primary environment.
Exactly.
Are our digital algorithms literally reshaping our consciousness as a super reality environment? I mean, I'm practically begging my brain to manufacture an outraged, anxious mind.
It's a scary thought. It forces a severe audit of what we pay attention to. Because the text insists that the architectural rules of the environment apply universally. You cannot feed a brain chaos and expect it to generate peace, which, naturally transitions into the strict hierarchy of existence the author proposes. If the environment dictates the mind, then different environments must produce fundamentally different levels of existence.
Yeah, the ladder of life. And the author actually capitalizes the word life, L-I-F-E, to denote your ultimate state of being or your soul's standing.
Yes, it's a very specific term in the text.
And the text lays out the rules of this ladder very bluntly. It says, the environment of animals bring up animals. The human environment brings up people. The environment of celestial beings brings up celestial beings. The environment of Buddha brings up Buddhas.
Notice the restriction built right into that sequence, though.
Yeah.
It's a completely locked system.
Right. It implies you can't cheat the system. If I want to elevate my consciousness to the level of a celestial being, I can't just sit in my suburban living room, read spiritual books, and meditate my way there.
No? Yeah.
Long-term exposure to the normal mainstream human world fundamentally anchors me to a human mind.
That is the uncompromising logic of the text.
So what does this all mean?
Well, just as a human infant raised by wolves cannot suddenly acquire human consciousness while continuing to live in the den,
Right.
an adult human cannot attain a higher spiritual consciousness while immersed in the human environment.
Oh, wow.
The daily friction of human society, the economics, the conflicts, the values will continually force your brain to generate a human mind.
Does this mean the author believes philosophical understanding isn't enough.
Mm.
You have to literally pack your bags and move to this specific community to upgrade your consciousness.
Within the author's logic, yes.
Wow.
To break the cycle, you have to physically change your geographic and social location.
That is a massive commitment.
It is. And this is where the philosophy funnels down into a very specific real-world directive. The author introduces something called the new oasis for life created by Lifechanyuan.
Right. The specific community.
Exactly. The text claims that this specific community acts as the literal environment of celestial beings.
It's a really significant pivot.
Very much so. The author moves from a broad, abstract cosmology to a highly prescriptive, actionable demand.
Yeah.
Within the logical structure we've mapped out, the author is arguing that if you genuinely desire to upgrade your consciousness to a celestial level, you must immerse your brain in an environment that possesses those specific, non-human attributes.
And for Shufeng, that required environment is exclusively this new oasis for life.
Exactly. That is the prescribed solution.
I can see how that conclusion is the natural endpoint of the environmental determinism we've been talking about.
Sure, the logic tracks.
But I gotta say, I have a massive problem with a different part of this framework.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if the environment is absolute king-like, if it completely dictates the mind that gets built, then logically, every human should start as a blank slate, right?
You would think so, yes.
If you put two different babies in the exact same pristine environment, they should develop the exact same enlightened mind.
You would definitely expect that. But the text actually anticipates that exact critique.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it introduces a massive wild card to explain the variation in human development, which is genetics and reincarnation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the author throws in past lives, and it kind of breaks the environmental model for me.
How so?
The text asserts that people carry genes of consciousness information from many previous lives, and this genetic consciousness dictates what the author calls your root of wisdom.
Right.
It argues that genius isn't cultivated by your surroundings at all. It is entirely innate.
Well, we need to unpack how the author defines innate here because it really differs from our standard biological definition.
Okay, how did he define it?
The text isn't talking about, a random mutation of DNA.
Right.
It argues that a soul physically acquires attributes, knowledge, and spiritual capacities throughout its journey across multiple previous lives,
Oh, that's it.
and that acquired data is somehow encoded into the non-material consciousness, which then imprints upon the new physical brain at birth.
The mechanism is wild. But, the analogy the author uses to explain the limitation of this is frankly brutal.
It is pretty harsh.
The text says that, generally speaking, people who have never lived in heaven in any of their previous lives cannot become a celestial being or attain Buddhahood in this life.
Right.
It compares it to someone who desperately wants to become a famous singer, but they were born with a rough, untuned voice.
Yeah.
They simply lack the fundamental equipment. I really struggle with this.
It's tough to swallow.
It feels incredibly deterministic. Like, if I didn't clock enough hours in heaven in a past life, am I just completely out of luck?
That's the implication.
Isn't it a bit contradictory to say our environment shapes us, but our genius is entirely preset by past lives? It feels deeply contradictory to me.
This raises an important question, and I completely understand the friction you're feeling. It's really the core paradox of the text.
Exactly.
On one hand, the environment is everything. On the other hand, your past lives dictate your potential.
Right, so which is it?
Well, rather than viewing them as contradictory, look at how the author attempts to lock them together into a dual engine theory.
A dual engine theory.
Yeah. Think of your past lives as establishing your hardware capacity.
Oh, like the processor speed on a computer.
Yes. Your past lives dictate the absolute upper limit of what your brain can process, your root of wisdom.
Okay.
However, that hardware capacity is entirely dormant without the current environment.
Wait, so if I have the innate past life genius of an enlightened master, but I'm born into that pack of wolves we talked about earlier.
Yes.
I am still going to end up howling at the moon. Like, the hardware is there, but the environmental data required to activate it just never arrived.
Precisely. And the reverse is also true.
How do you mean?
You could place someone in the absolute perfect, pristine environment of celestial beings, but if their genetic consciousness lacks the prerequisite capacity.
If they have that untuned voice.
Exactly. If they have the untuned voice, the environment cannot force them to ascend beyond their hardware limits.
Ah, I get it now.
Both conditions must be met. The environment is the catalyst, but the root of wisdom is the capacity.
Okay, that clarifies the mechanics a lot. It's a two-key system.
It really is.
But if you're listening and feeling a bit of metaphysical whiplash right now,
Mm-hmm.
hang on, because the text pulls one final maneuver that flips this entire dynamic on its head.
It really does a 180 here.
Because up to this point, the brain and the mind have been largely subservient to the great universe.
Right.
But the text establishes a final, rigid binary between the physical brain and the non-material mind.
It's the ultimate culmination of the framework.
Yeah.
The brain is material, it is a channel, it is entirely restrained by the physical laws of the universe, and ultimately it perishes.
Right, it dies.
But the mind, which the text equates directly with the soul or life, is non-material.
And the text uses one specific word that changes the entire power dynamic. Independent.
Yes.
It states, minds are independent and can exist even without the great universe.
Which is a staggering paradox when you think about where we started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The physical brain absolutely requires the universe to build the mind.
Right.
But once the mind is successfully constructed, it completely outgrows its creator. It just severs the biological umbilical cord.
It doesn't just sever the cord, it reverses the flow of creation entirely.
Right. Really?
Yeah. We began this discussion with the great universe imposing its raw data onto a passive brain to form a consciousness.
Right. The prism.
But the text concludes with this statement. The great universe can be created by a mind. As long as there is consciousness, the great universe can be created.
Oh, wow. So the mind goes from being a byproduct of reality to the author of reality.
Check!
It is the ultimate closed loop. So let's synthesize this intense interactive relationship we've mapped out today.
Let's do it.
Step 1. The great universe, meaning the material reality you touch, and the super reality screens you consume, beams raw data into your biological antenna, your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2. Your brain processes that light like a prism, actively forging your mind in real time. Step 3. Your resulting mind is a combination of that environmental data and the dormant hardware capacity you brought over from past lives.
Yes.
And step 4. Once that consciousness reaches a certain level of realization, it becomes entirely independent from the physical universe.
Yeah.
And gains the capacity to literally build universes of its own.
It is a framework that forces a really profound reevaluation of agency.
It really does.
It demands that we look very closely at the super reality we allow into our daily lives, recognizing that we aren't just passing time. We are actively constructing the very fabric of our consciousness.
It definitely makes me want to put my phone in a drawer for a few days, that's for sure.
Me too.
But before we wrap up, I want to pose a question to you, the listener.
Okay.
We've explored this massive cosmological loop today, and the text leaves us with the assertion that while the brain is a slave to the material world, the non-material mind can independently create the great universe.
Right.
What stands out to you about this framework?
Well, here's a thought to leave you with. If the mind can exist independently of the physical world and build universes, is it possible that the material reality you are sitting in right now is simply the super reality creation of a higher mind?
Oh, wow.
It turns the observer into the observed. It's a perfect final thought for a text that constantly blurs the line between the creator and the created.
That is heavy. What kind of universe is your mind absorbing today, and what kind of universe will it create tomorrow? That is definitely something to chew on.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us as we cross the biological bridge today. Until next time, be incredibly careful what data you let hit your prism, and keep questioning the inputs you feed your own mind. Catch you on the next deep dive.